Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss as part of dynamic object creation. When you allocate memory dynamically, there is always a pointer that stores the starting address of the allocated memory. The starting address of the allocated memory is stored in a pointer, and that pointer has some data type associated with it, isn't it? Well, if your pointer is of type null, if your pointer is of type void, then what happens? The very first thing that happens, I told you yesterday, that if your pointer is a void pointer and you're trying to delete memory, okay, then delete will fail because delete will not know what is the data type of this variable, and therefore delete will not know how much memory to delete and how many elements to delete, because this information, how much memory to delete, the delete takes from data type. Void means no data type, so no information for delete, delete fails. Another thing, question is, what is NULL null? What is NULL null? Come on, somebody. Question is, what is null? What is null? NULL. Null is 0. Are you talking about the character 0 or which have ASCII value 0, or are you talking about number 0 that has ASCII value 45, I believe? Number 0. So you mean to say that null is a either character or an integer. If it is a character, then it will be the ASCII representation, or if it is a number, it will be the ASCII value. So null is either integer or a character according to you. No character. Null is not a character. Null is not an integer. Somebody, come on, try. I know you may not know it, but it doesn't mean that expect me to give answer. Think, everybody, think and try. Come on. What is NULL? The understanding about null is important, because then you will realize that why we are talking about null. NULL. What? It's not a character. It is not an integer. Blank space is ASCII value 26. Are you talking about the ASCII value 26 character? I told you it's not a character, therefore it is not a blank space. Anything else? Well, you don't have to be surprised, because nobody in this world have given this answer till date. Let me show you what is null. See this. We are inside kernel, and null is described inside Linux kernel and is imported by C for using, or C++ for its own use. There is a header file called scat.h. In this header file, grep null in scat.h. Oh, it's not given here. Standard f.h. Okay. Here it is. Null. It's a macro. See here. Null is a macro. It's not a character, it's not an integer, it's not a blank space. It's not some special character. It's some macro, macro macro, whose macro expansion is void star 0. Okay. What is this void star 0 now? Suppose this is a process context. In the process context, the very first segment that you have is a code segment, and the activities start from code segment. Okay, as Rishabh said just now, I would have discussed one someday. Now, code segment starts from some address X, some logical address X, but here you had the starting address, logical address 000, but code segment starts from X. Now this offset at which the code segment starts, this is some arbitrary offset decided by Linux address space randomization algorithm. Linux address space randomization algorithm, which randomizes this offset. The code segment always is the first segment to start inside the process context, but the offset or the logical address from which the code segment will start is randomized. Okay, so means everything below X, these addresses are invalid. Okay, 0 is certainly invalid, isn't it? That's why null is a invalid. Void star 0 means you are referring to the 0th address in the process context, which is always invalid. Even his randomization algorithm randomizes algorithm between 1 to some value, but 0 logical address within the process context is always invalid address. This is null. Okay, and 1 is true and 0 is false because that is also given here as an enumerator. So when asked questions that what is true, people say 1. So what 1? Is voltage level 1, or is it one value, or a sky value 1, or a character 1? What it is? People are not able to answer. Actually it is an enumerator. Okay, this is null. So because your null is a void star 0, that is why using nulls in C++ is a big worry. How? Before C++ 11, the constant 0 was used to define either a number 0 or a null pointer. This caused problem because null, is given here also. Null is a void pointer. I showed you in the kernel itself. Okay, it's a macro. Now look at this situation. You have a function in which you are passing char star str as an argument. Okay, you have another function, you are passing integer as an argument. Now you pass null. Come on, tell me, where is it going to go? Okay, even if it not would have been integer, it would have been integer pointer and the character pointer. Where will this function go? Call go. Function call will go here, or function call will go here. Well, you can give different logics and it can go different places, but this is a ambiguous situation. Look at this. The null pointer is going to go anywhere. Ideally, null is void star 0 will refer to 0 because everything at that address is set to 0 so that there is no garbage. So it will consider 0 as a number and go to integer. But then some people can say, oh, it's a pointer, so it finds a pointer here. Then through rules of promotion, it may go here. Null is not a pointer, okay, but it's a macro, isn't it? Therefore, it won't go to the pointer wala function, but identical to the integer 0. So therefore, it may mature here if there is a compiler optimization there. But this is ambiguous situation. The problem is solved with the introduction of NULL-PTR. NULL capital is a macro, should never be used. Okay, in C++. Also in C, but in C you do not have any other option. Yeah, you use NULL-PTR. This solves the problem. Then NULL-PTR is a character pointer, char star 0. it will refer to the 0th location, fine, but it will have a data type associated with it, that is char star. Okay, so when you use a void, when you use a NULL null anywhere in the C program, remember, someday your program will crash. If not today, then definitely in front of the client it will crash. Okay. So usage of null is strictly barred. I mean, theoretically it is not written anywhere, but I am telling you, it is my own experience, that if you use null, you have problem. Use NULL PTR. This was introduced in C++ 17 standard onwards. Okay, so I'll show you how it works. Here it is. I'm using null, NULL null, and I have integer pointer and I have a char pointer. Let's see where it goes. Oh, overloaded function call is ambiguous. Didn't I tell you that's ambiguous one? Even the compiler understands that null is ambiguous call. You can't use it. Now if we try this, why I am telling you this, because you will be writing polymorphic functions. The function names will be same, the arguments will differ, and then usage of null will destroy everything. Well, compiler says that still it calls overloaded function is ambiguous. Okay. Okay, hold on. So what happens is, using null PTR also, it says it is ambiguous because it expected to be a polymorphic function. Now this null PTR is also maturing here also, here also. Okay, let's grep. No, we don't want to change. So null PT, null NULL PTR. Should have called char star version, but it's not calling char star version. It's not found in the kernel as well. So null NULL PTR is a C++ feature, not a kernel feature. So I've given a wrong command here, so I have to finish it. Close this, and then reopen the window. Okay, null PTR is defined but in a binary file associated with CPP. That means it is one of the symbols defined in CPP, C++, G++ compiler. Let's try that. It's a binary, I believe. Yeah, it's executable, it's binary. So it is giving the binary portion of C++, CPP. Null PTR is defined there. And it is not maturing to char star. It should have matured to char star. Okay. The problem is solved. This is a new installation. I have recently installed this machine last week when I started device drivers with the other batch. So by default C++ 11 standard have come here. I have to update it to C++ 17 standard where you'll be able to see null PTR. That's what I was thinking why it's not there. It was never there in C++ 11. So I will update it to C++ 17 in the before the next class, and I'll show you the description of null PTR, what is null PTR and how it works. See that C++ 11 standard I have. So if I go to I have to boot into other kernel, or I have to update my C++. I will update it and show it to you next class. Null PTR is the solution. Okay, when you do null PTR, it will match to the char star version, and you will be able to solve the ambiguity problem. So whenever you have to use null PTR. Always equate it equal to 0. If it is equal to 0, that means it's a null. Okay, that was one thing. I hope you understand. I was not able to show you because it's just now I realized that this is a new installation. In the new installation, I have the older version of C++, that is C++ 11. That's why your null PTR was not visible. It was introduced for C++ 13 standard onwards, but we will be programming using the C++ 17 standards, the projects now. Yes, Rishabh? एरे को नल करते हैं मतलब एरे के पॉइंटर को नल करते हैं. Means you are creating array, means the starting address of the array is stored in a pointer. Then you make this pointer as null. So that means you are losing the address of the array. You will not be able to access the array. The memory was allocated to the array and remains allocated and lost. And this pointer is now a null pointer, not pointing anywhere. Okay. Now using pointers with the objects. You have learned last class how to allocate memory for any data type including pointers using the new keyword and deallocate it using delete keyword. You also learned that when you have to allocate space for array, you will use the subscript operator square bracket both in new and in delete. So this is an example. We are going to create pointer to object of type distance class. Okay, then instead of using dot, you will be using the arrow operator. There is another syntax, but let's not confuse ourselves. This is better. Okay, pointer points to member function. So points to operator will be used. I told you this yesterday also. Okay. The concept of stack frames I have already given yesterday. Yeah, somebody was speaking something. Okay, when we talk about addresses and when we talk about pointers, then you know only one thing, pointer. But in C++ there are two things. One is this star dist. So dist is a pointer to object of type distance. The distance data type of the pointer and the data type of memory being allocated should match. Okay, so this is a pointer to object. Look at this one. Here, instead of using pointer to object, I am using slightly different syntax. Instead of star, I am using address of operator. Well, it is not called address of operator here. It is called reference. So what happens is, you create, you work with the addresses of identifiers, address of integer, address of char, address of object in two ways in C++. One is through the pointer, where dist will contain address of allocated memory, or a reference. This is called a pointer. If you have star, this is called a reference. Means the object is created. Okay, new distance, object is created here. New distance, okay, object is created. Now used a star means value. You are fetching some value from that allocated memory, and this is referring to that value. When you use ampersand, means you force the rule that the value will not be fetched from any variable, but the value will be fetched from some point, some memory, which is dynamically allocated. I repeat, look at this. New distance means memory allocated. Okay. Introduction of star means value is being fetched from this allocated memory. Okay, that was one part. Another is this, a reference, referring to value fetched from dynamically allocated memory. This is the reference. So there are two ways of working with memory in C++, through the pointers or through the reference. You got that? Any queries you have in this, you tell me now. Now, I have a class distance. I have a pointers to objects being created, distance, a pointer to object being created, memory allocated for the pointer, it's quite understood, and pointed to by the distance. Then you can use distance, dist points to, not dot. Dist points to public member function get dist, which will say enter feet, CIN feet, enter inches, CIN inches, and the values will be entered. Then you have show dist function. Again, you have to use arrow operator, and the show dist function will be called. Here is a show dist function here, which says the value of feet mark hyphen value of inches, inch mark, and it will be displayed. I'll just run it and show it to you. It's very simple and straight. Oh, one more thing. Wait. Look at the previous program. I should have done G++. Still the issue was same. G++. New program. It says dist I was the, where is I dist I? Some mistake. Type I. Compilation is successful, and I run, it works. Enter feet 4, enter inches 7, okay, fine, it works. But now I am going to use it in a different way. I'm going to use the newly introduced concept references, in which I allocate memory new distance, and this says that okay, we are going to fetch some value from here which is going to be referred by the reference to the object. Okay, when you use reference means you already have value, so it's not a pointer, it's a value, you know. So in that case you won't use the arrow operators, you will come back to your traditional dot operators. The rest is same. It feet, it wanted it inches and works fine. So there are two ways of using addresses in C++, using pointers and the new concept using references. Got that? So there is more to discuss today, but we are out of time. We had some other discussion today. Remind me next class, because Saturday, Sunday is coming in between, so there will be gap. So remind me next class that we have to start from dynamically allocated arrays now in the next class. Okay.